Hey, what up, dudes? All right. Been a little bit since I streamed. I just been working in my like off stream, and actually I made pretty good progress, honestly. Just I usually I always would stream when I code. It just kind of helps me to like focus and to stay on task, you know. And I don't know, it just kind of keeps my brain active, and it's kind of like I don't know. It just makes it better for me, honestly. It's not really like I don't really care about audience or whatever. It's really just like it helps me out, and I figure maybe anyone that sees it and they're thinking about programming or whatever, or if they're interested in like Python, whatever, and it might like help them out. I don't know, give them some motivation. It's motivate me, motivate whoever. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump in. So, past couple days, like I said, been working off stream, and we did a lot of like cleaning up of the server and client. That's what we had been doing. Just getting those files nice and refactored. Honestly, like the size. Look at this. My client file is only 300 lines. Before, I don't know, maybe like less than a month ago, it was probably double that. Honestly, it was like at least 500. I'd say at least 500. And same thing with server. We got it down to 440, which is, I mean, that it was at least, I don't know, it's probably about 600. So, like, we chopped off 25% of this one, and maybe even more, 30-40% off a client. So, just readability of the files overall, so improved, so much better. Yeah, so we're kind of scattered a little bit with things we were doing. I was kind of like going with the flow, doing whatever I felt needed to be done, like at the moment, and mostly like little things. But I did add in a new save verification system. I removed the receive verification because I found out that TCP sockets automatically use a receive verification system. So having a secondary one is overkill. You don't need it. It's completely like extra. You just don't have to have it. So I got rid of that, and I realized that we needed a save verification instead of receive verification anyway, which is more like apply verification. It's basically like letting us know that not only did we receive the data from the other side, but we received it, and then we reached the save point to where we could save that data. Basically, that means we don't need, at that point in time, we would never need the other side to resend us the data again. We we can extract it from our database if we crash, or we already have it stored locally. Like it's safe. And that lets the other side know, hey, you can let go of this data from your storage because we already got it. You're not going to need to resend it to us or anything. Like, we already have it saved on our side. So we finished that up pretty much. We added in some stuff for ending the game, where we added in this match end bool. And yeah, we did some other little minor things, just improvements all around. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump into this. I think what we're gonna do here is get rid of that line first. I got rid of a lot of my divs and stuff because I don't know, I just like it better this way. So this should be sender ID integer, and I thought I changed all those. It's weird. And I know I have autosave enabled, so I went through and added integer suffix to all these. Alright, this, it's alright, but there's too much like going on there. It's a little too much. Hopefully this is a little better. Let's check our audio. Yeah, there's too much of that shit. Alright. So audio's good, and we're gonna... You got weird people, bro. Start adding people, and people start adding me, and then you just get some weird people. Like this person messaged me, come pick me up. Like I literally just added this person, like who is this? I don't even know who this is. Come pick me up. Like, what are you talking about, dude? Anyway. That's weird ass people out there, bro. Gotta watch out for those weirdos. Come pick me up. Like, who? Pick who up? I don't even know who you are. Weird ass people, bro. Weird ass people, dude. All right, so let's work on this match and bool. Okay, so we got this comment here that says, yeah, we're gonna do this too. This we're gonna take care of this real quick. All right, so we got ensure client sends back match and bool equals true after receiving this data to trigger the killing of threads and process. Okay. We need to do that. That's correct. So the way this works is we enter into the while loop. We check to see if match and bool is equal to true. And we got this saying, shouldn't this be placed after the receive apply section to check if it's been received? AKA at the end of the while loop. Yeah, and I think that's correct. Like, because match and bool, it gets sent over the network, right? I think that's the way it's supposed to work. So we say if match and bool is equal to true, other client forfeit bool lock acquire. If other client forfeit bool is equal to true, release the lock, and then we run other client forfeit function. And then this runs this function here, and that's in progression. And that no, that's not what triggers it. Yeah, that's right. This just sends them over the letting them know that it's over, like the game's done. So then well, that's all that happens. There's okay, so yeah, that's all the code we actually added. Apparently we didn't add the rest of it. Okay, so I see. Yeah, we want them to receive this data, and that's gonna send to them. Well, it only sends them this progression text. It doesn't send them anything like special to signify that the game is over. We would need them to know that the game is done. So we might have to have, I feel like when this happens, in progression, we should probably set the game end bool to true, and then send that to the client. And then once the client receives it, have the client have that Boolean switch trigger them sending back like verified received match end bool. How about that? So we're gonna have two different attributes here. We're gonna have match end bool, and then we're gonna have verified received match end bool. Yeah, I think that's going to be the way to go. So the question is, what file should it be associated with? Should it be game? I feel like game would be probably the proper. We don't really want it to be client because it's going to be sent from client. It's going to be handled in both client and server. So we don't really want it to be associated with one or the other because it's got to be associated with both, which means it's got to be something that both of them interact with, and that would be like game. And that makes sense to have it as game. I guess you could say player as well, but I think game is probably more fitting. So we're going to add this to game. So let us find where we need to put this. So we have Pygame display, Pygame sound, card sprite, card clicking, text section. So where would this go in? I guess we can put it in, like, not this section. We don't want it in text. So this is for calculated properties. Should it be a calculated property? I mean, I feel like that's a good way to do it. We receive one attribute, which is a calculated property, and it's been changed to true. That would be match end bool. When match end bool gets changed to true, that would trigger verified received match end bool to be set to true, which would in turn transfer verified received match end bool back over from the client to the server. So you got server sending out match end bool true to client, client receives match end bool true, and then that triggers the client sending back to the server match end a verified received match end bool equals true, and that will make it to where that starts the logic of the game ending on the server side to let the server know, hey, the match is over now. You can go ahead and terminate the child process and the threads associated with it. So I think that's what we'll do. We're gonna copy this here. We'll just have this as a like a stencil, whatever you want to call it. And so we have this doubled up, and this is gonna be, well, don't we want it to be calculated property as well, so it auto sends? Yeah, because we want it to do the thing where it calls this data transfer function. Yeah. So we're gonna do two actually. So let's go up here, and this is gonna be created 8/27/25, and then this is just gonna be ... property. We're gonna change this to be called match end bool. Okay, and it is transferred. It's gonna need to be transferred. We're gonna need to add it to our list up here. for things that get transferred and all that. So we're going to add it right here. We'll come back to that. And then we're also going to do verified received, or we could say verified received match end bool. Yeah. So we got 2 of them. And we go back down here to where the magic is happening, which is, and why did we add it? Okay, I thought we added it as the top one. It doesn't really matter. It's fine. Okay, so that's not the one we're messing with. Oh yeah, it is. Alright, yeah, this is it. Okay, so we're going to change the name of this to be, yeah, match end bool. And it's going to return match end bool. Then we have round and winner sound bool. Now this is going to be changed to match end bool. Setter. Change the name of that to be match end bool. If reconnect bool dot hard reconnect bool is equal to false. And we're gonna have to determine like logic for this, for whether or not we need to save it. Determine whether, or determine, yeah, whether we need to save this to DB and how it should be handled upon DC, if so. If DC slash reconnect, if so. Alright. So I've mentioned bool setter. If reconnect bool, hard reconnect bool is equal to false. I don't know if we're gonna need this for this one. Because it's only going to... Okay, so it's only gonna do the data transfer in this case. So if we were reconnecting, we're not gonna do data transfer. That's how that works. So we're gonna need the internal match-in bool. So I guess we can put it right here, that's fine. So it's gonna be default to false. change from apply receive data function receive. Do not append to change attribute list. Okay, right. So if the type of the val is equal to a tuple, that means it's been changed from the apply receive data function, which means we already received it. Like, we're receiving it and applying the data from data transfer, which means we don't want to do data transfer. But if it's else, meaning it's just not a tuple, that means it's changed in the game. That means we do want to append it to the change attribute list for data transfer. So in that case, we'll call data transfer function, and we'll pass the self ID, the game object, the caltup, and this is going to be game, match and bool as the name, and bool. And we're going to need to add a logic to handle this. So this is going to be changed. We'll say add logic to handle this in the associated sections. And then it's going to be set to whatever the val is. And then if val is equal to true, we'll do if change attribute list is server side or client side. If it's run on the client side, and that's actually true. Yeah, because we don't want it to falsely trigger, right? Because it would falsely trigger the other boolean to get sent back as true. Like, it would set it to true prematurely. So we need it to only be run on the client side. And in that case, we could technically just call the data transfer function on the verified match and bool. Like, couldn't we just do it like that? Like, instead of having a whole nother property to handle verified received, we could just handle that like all right here, because the only purpose that it's gonna serve is sending it back to the client. Well, but we would also want it to trigger, like, we need to add code for this being set to true to trigger other things that are going to happen at the very end of the game. Like, this is going to be what will it's going to cause them to go back to the beginning of the game, or back to the matchmaking lobby. So they're going to receive this, right? So they're going to get their progression text, which is going to tell them, congratulations, you win. It tells them their final score, and they have to hit enter continue to progress. And then, well, if we do match and bool equals true here, then that's going to end up sending the data over the network, obviously. And then when they receive it, they're going to, it's going to trigger this setter. And if we immediately cause, like, the game to end, like, to return them automatically to the lobby, that would skip basically their chance to like read the match summary thing. And what I wanted to happen was for them to have the opportunity to read this, but if we sent this at the same time as we sent match end bool, it would like appear on the screen for like a split second and then it would just automatically like disappear or whatever. Well, that's not actually true, is it? Because since we have ordered data application, this is gonna be applied first, and then this EC enter continue causes a while loop to be entered, wherein while the client has yet to hit enter, the client window is trapped in a while loop, so it doesn't process any more data because it's single threaded. So it's basically like blocking from really well, it actually blocks data transfer as well, right? Yeah, because this is a single threaded thing. So the client side is single threaded, so anything on the client side is going to block. It's not going to allow any other thing to happen until they hit enter continue, which in this case is actually a good thing. That's what we'd want. Yeah, so that is the plan. That actually sounds like it would work exactly as I would want it to, naturally, without having to do like anything special. So if it worked like that, we could just have this immediately trigger the end of the match, because it's not going to happen until they have read the summary and hit enter. So yeah, that's actually should be perfect. So then we can say game, assign game. So we're gonna want to do, say, game dot match end bool equals true, and this will get sent to CS, which triggers CS to end its match and re-enter the matchmaking lobby after allowing the above progression text to be displayed until they hit enter. Well, this is really, so let's put this first. Really, this should be after allowing the above progression text to be displayed until they hit enter. Gets sent to CS, or this adder gets sent to CS, which triggers CS to end its match and re-enter the matchmaking lobby. Upon reception, CS will then send server side back verified received match end bool equals true, so server side can begin ending the client threads and subprocess to free up memory, etc. Okay, cool. And this is going to have to be added. So we'll say below line 827. Add this code in other locations which end the match. Ensure it interacts with prior sections properly. so the client has time to read, match summary, etc. Okay, cool. So that should work as intended. At least I think it should. And now, so we have match and bool here. Returns self match and bool setter. So we'll do add property, double check, def match and bool transferred, verified needs to be transferred. Yes, it does. And we would return the internal, and that's for the getter. Then we have the match and bool setter, and it takes self value. That's correct. And then if reconnect bool, hard connect bool is equal to false, that means it's a not reconnect. Operate normally. Check to see if type of val is equal to tuple. Change from apply received. Yep, that's true as well. Val is going to equal val 0 in that case. Val 1 is change from apply receive data func, merely aesthetic and not used here. And then else change in game. So yeah, all this is correct. Add logic channel and associated sections. Data transfer function cal object int self id game object self cal tup game match and bool val, and that would be true in this case, right? Okay, and I think that's correct. And then we have self underscore match and bool equals val. And then if val is equal to true, so if val is equal to true, if change from client side, okay, that's true as well. We only want it to trigger if true, and then if from client side, and we could just do and. We could say if val is equal to true and if changed yeah, because yeah, that's correct. So we could just do and here. So if val is equal to true and change attribute list SSCS is equal to CS. Verified only on CS. True. In that case, we would want self dot verified received match and bool to be set to true, and this triggers being sent back to client side or server side rather to begin ending client threads and subprocess. So now this is going to, well, we also need to trigger other things as well, right? So we have to add that here. We want to trigger like all the other stuff that has to happen at the end of the game. So we're going to say add code which causes the client to re-enter back into the matchmaking lobby since the match is now over. And like we might need to reset some variables, like I'll just put that as a note here. May need to reset save file, DBs, etc. to clear all prior game data for a clean slate / new game. Alright. And we could actually do that at the start of the next game. Could actually trigger this wipe to happen at start of new game since they may just exit. I gotta piss real quick, I'll be back. I'm back. Alright, so we got this figured out here. Add code which causes the client to re-enter back into the matchmaking lobby since the match is now over. May need to reset save file, DBs, etc. to clear all prior game data for a clean slate. New game could actually trigger this wipe to happen at the start of the new game since they may just exit instead. That's true as well. Yeah, so all this is good so far. So we'll take care of that after. And then let's read this. We'll go line by line here. Well, actually, we haven't changed this one, so let's go ahead and change this one. So we have verified, received, match, and bool. Let's copy that. Transferred. It is a property. Well, I'll go ahead and read the comment. 82725 Boolean purpose sent by CSS as true. Is this sent by CS to SS as true? True, that's right. When the match is determined to be finished via SS via receiving match and bool on CS, which sends this item back to the SS to verify we received the message to end the match. So SS can begin termination of other client sub process and threads. Yeah, that's kind of wordy, but it's true. Okay. Verified, received match and bool, which takes in self, it's transferred, and it does need to be transferred. Return self dunder. Not dunder, just under, verified, received, match, and bool. Dunder means double underscore, if you didn't know. So, yeah, it's double under, dunder. Verified, received, match, and bool setter. And what that's going to do is it's going to take self val, and if it's not a reconnect, that means it's going to operate normally. And I don't know if we actually need that for this. Yeah, like we don't want any data transfer stuff to happen for reconnect. Right. Yeah. That makes sense. Okay, yeah. So that's right. And if type of val is equal to tuple, we already know. Val is equal to val 0. That's true. Changing game do append to change data list for data transfer. Yeah, but we're not. Well, yeah, we are going to transfer this, and we don't need this time stamp for that. We just do data transfer cal object and equal self ID. Game object is going to be self cal tup game, and then it's going to be the verified, received, match, and bool, and then val. And the only time this is going to be well, if we receive it from data transfer, it's not going to transfer it again. So I was just worried about that. So game verified, received, match, and bool, val. Yeah, that should be right, I think. And then we have self. We're going to need under. Verified, received, match, and bool is equal to val. And if val is equal to true, and if we're on the client side, but none of this is correct. And we don't need that. And then for if it's false, well, it's never going to be changed to false. So like that's, we don't even need to account for that. It's going to be default to false, and then it's going to be changed to true. It's never going to get changed back. Yeah, okay. So if val is equal to true, and we'll say and change attribute list SOCS is equal to, actually for server side, because when we're receiving it and it's true and it's being received on the server side, we want to we want to trigger the ending of the sub process and the and we might not want to do anything else in here. We might just check this each iteration of the while loop, and then once it's been set, I don't know, that's kind of silly, right? We shouldn't really check it every time. Instead of just checking it every time, we could have it notify us. But that would imply this section handling code that really should be executed inside of server, and we can't actually import server code into game because server imports game. That would be a circular import. So what we would have to do well, we may just have to check for it. I mean, checking for a Boolean is very cheap, but yeah, that's what we're gonna have to do. I don't think we could. I mean, we could probably avoid a circular import by locally importing the server function here, but I don't like that. I think we'll just go with the other option. So yeah, we're just going to, when we set it, we're going to transfer it if it's not on the receiving side already. And then we're going to set it to true. And now we're going to have code in server which triggers the end of the match and kills the threads in the process. So now we have to add code in server.by which checks for this bool each iter of the main while loop, and then if true, trigger logic to end client threads, sub process, etc. To end the match cleanly. Alright, that's good. Now what else are we gonna do here? So this is ensure client sends back match and bool true after receiving this data to trigger. Well, that's not the case anymore, is it? What's gonna really happen is we're going to Well, what this should say ensure client sends back match and bool true receiving data. Match and bool is equal to true. This will actually be, how about this? Breaks out of main while loop to kill thread in process. So we do have to add the code. Let's see here. Add code in correct location to kill thread in process after this, right? Add code to clean the exit thread whenever the match and bool set true for okay, no. So if self match and bool, and really this is going to be verified received match and bool. So if verified received match and bool is equal to true, then we're going to break out of the main while loop to kill the thread in process. So that's going to end everything associated with the match, because the client has read their summary message. But that logic is not perfect because it doesn't account for the normal so what would have to happen is, because I was thinking about when it normally ends, that means both games will need to receive this. Like on a normal game end where no one forfeits, they would both need the opportunity to read their match summary. Now, the while loop for the progression text would allow them to do that because it's single threaded. So until they hit enter, it's not going to move on at all. But it would throw an exception Well, it might throw an exception. Well, no, because they're not trying to do a connection operation. It would throw an exception when they try to do a connection operation, right? I'm not honestly sure about that because I'm pretty sure. I'll have to ask ChatGPT about that, but I want to say if they're caught in a while loop that has nothing to do with the network connection, but it's part of a larger while loop that does include the data transfer connection. If that connection gets terminated, it's not going to affect that inner while loop. Like until it gets to the next part that tries to access the client, it's not going to throw an exception, right? I mean, that makes sense. I don't think it would throw an exception. So in that case, as long as we we would have to make sure that we receive and apply the data before we try to interact with the connection again, because it would be terminated on the server side, which would make the client throw an exception. So like we would have to we'd have to have, either we could leave it as it is and add in special logic that will handle it would micromanage the main while loop such that it would make sure that both clients set their match-in bool equal to true and triggered the end of the game before before it tried to transfer any more data, because at that point it would hit an exception. Because if one of the clients had sent back verified received match-in bool before the other client, let's just say it's not as fast, then it would sever that connection on the server side. And then when the client side tries to access that connection data transfer line, it's going to throw an exception, which is obviously not good. That would, mess up the process on the client side. So the solution would either be to add micromanage on the client side, or we could make it to where the server side had to wait for both clients to send back the verified received match-in bool. And honestly, I'm not sure which one I would want to do. It's really, 6 one way, half a dozen the other. It's the same thing. Yeah, I guess so it would receive it. Okay, it would receive match-in bool. Client 1 would receive match-in bool. It would apply that data, and it would draw the window. It would then send back the verified received match-in bool to the server through this part. Then it's going to go back up here. Server side is going to receive that, and then it would trigger this logic, which is going to break out of the main while loop to kill the thread in the process. Now at that point it would sever all the connections. So on the client side, for the other client, if that happened too fast relative to client 1 versus client 2, before client 2 could even receive the data for match-in bool, it could already have been over, and it wouldn't even have the opportunity to get the match summary and stuff. It would just like cut off for them. It wouldn't, it wouldn't be legit. So yeah, I think honestly we would just have to do a C1 and a C2. I think that's the better option. Yeah, so we're gonna say let's do it like that. So we're gonna change this to be, this is gonna check relative to whichever And it's okay, we can break out of this one. We'll say if client 1 or 2 int is equal to 1, then we're gonna say if self.c1 verified, and then we'll have this is gonna be well, hold up. Let's do it like this. Else, which is gonna be elif client 1 or 2 int is equal to 2. In that case, we're going to do if self.c2 C2 verified received match in bool is equal to true. Should this be placed at blah 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 blah, and it's gonna break out yeah, we'll just do it like that. Yeah. So if and we can do and, how about that? We'll do this. And so if client 1 or 2 int is equal to 1 and self c1 verified receive match in bool is equal to true, then it's going to break out. And then else, well, actually we'll change this to be elif. We'll say elif client 1 or 2 int is equal to 2 and self.c2 verified receive match in bool is equal to true, blah blah blah. We would then break out we can leave that there. Alright, now it's gonna go to break out of this while loop. So it's gonna enter, well, it's not gonna enter the except, it's just gonna break out, right? Like if you do a break, that has nothing to do with try except. So it's just going to go down here, right? Where would it go to? Let's see. It's gonna go break. It's gonna break out of the while loop. So it's try while. Once it breaks out of this while loop, the next thing that it's gonna do is, well, it's not going to do this because that's it, right? It's broken out of that while loop. It's just going to do the try, and it's not going to hit an exception because there was no exception. Breaking out of the while loop doesn't trigger an exception, and it's not going to enter into that exception. It's going to enter right here. So it's going to say with con lock, con close. Okay. Do I need to add code to stop and the thread, or will it happen? Yeah. So this actually is the spot right here. So we need to add the code to stop end thread. Yeah. So say add code to stop end thread and child process. Well, once the thread is done, then it will enter back here, right? So shouldn't we... We're not going to hit an exception. So this is where it gets a little bit complicated, because we have the thread being started. All this stuff up here happens in the context of the thread, blah, blah, blah. It runs the game. And then after that, it would go down here and it would go to sys exit. So this would kill the child process. And yeah, so it's gonna it's gonna finish this. This is gonna be over. It's then gonna go here, right? So it should only go to this once once all the progression loop is done, which means the game is over, right? Because this is basically just a nesting doll of functions that call one another, like, in a very complicated way to run the game. And then once that's done, it would go here, and it wouldn't enter the exception because there is no exception, right? And it's going to go to here. It's going to print out our logs, and then it's going to do sys exit, which is fine. So that's actually what we want. Now, the question is the thread gonna be closed? Like, is the thread still gonna be open, or is it gonna be already taken care of? Let's see about that. So if we have let's see here. So say Python thread.start after target function is complete, does it auto close thread and release all resources associated with thread? Yes, in Python, when you start a thread with thread target, here's what happens. When you call thread start, a new OS level thread is created backed by Python starting module. That thread runs the function you gave it, target. Once the target function returns, finishes execution, the thread terminates automatically. Okay, so once the target function returns, it terminates automatically. Its resources are released by the OS, like stack memory, kernel, thread handle, etc. In Python, the threading thread object representing that thread will remain in memory until you let it go, like any other Python object, but it is now considered a dead thread. You can check this with thread is alive, which will return false. So auto close, yes, the thread ends itself when the target function is done. You don't need to manually close it. Resource cleanse, the OS cleans up thread resources. Python also ensures reference counts drop when the thread object goes out of scope. If you want to wait until the thread is finished, you call it thread join. If you don't join, the thread still ends, but your main program might finish before it, unless the thread is marked daemon equals true. And we do have daemon true. You should call it, your main program might finish before it. Okay, I see. Yeah, but in this case, it's not gonna, because it still keeps going. It's got its own main process while loop that it's gonna continue to operate through. Okay. So, long story short, like, I think we're good. The only thing we might need to do is, so we might need to set client 1 thread, client 2 thread equal to none, but okay. And if the 2 threads exist in the context of a sub process and the sys exit terminates the process after the 2 target threads are done running, doesn't that mean we don't have to worry about resources being manually cleared, etc., associated with the sub process? Exactly, you've got it. If you spawn a sub process via multi-processing sub process, or even manually fork exec, and that sub process launches a couple of threads, each thread will automatically exit once its target function completes. The Python runtime inside that sub process will then be left with no live threads. If you then call sysexit, or the process ends naturally, the entire process is torn down by the operating system. All threads in that process are killed immediately. All memory, file handles, sockets, etc. that belong to the process are reclaimed by the operating system. Python objects in that process will go away with the process. You don't need to manually delete them. So yes, you do not have to worry about manually cleaning up thread resources inside a sub-process. If the sub-process itself is about to exit, the OS is responsible for cleaning up process-level resources, and that includes thread stacks, kernel objects, and memory pages. The only things you need to be careful about are external resources that live outside the process, like open files, network sockets, or database connections. If you don't close them cleanly, the OS will close them when the process ends. But remote peers might see it as an abrupt disconnect. Shared state with the parent process. Files mapped with multi-processing.shared memory pipes. If you want a deterministic cleanup, it's good practice to close those before exit. But as far as threads plus subprocess lifecycle, once the subprocess ends, everything inside it is gone automatically. So I think that this actually, like, we don't even have to add any code, because this client thread is literally just going to break out of its while loop. It's going to close the con, which might be overkill. Like, we might not even need to do that, because that's already going to happen. That should already happen when the thread ends. I think if we have open con inside thread, does con auto close when thread ends? Not automatically. The lifetime of a connection is not tied to the lifetime of the thread that created it. A thread is just an execution context inside the process. When it ends, the Python objects it was using don't magically disappear. If your thread opens a socket or a DB connection, that object remains alive in memory as long as there's a reference to it somewhere in the process. Python's garbage has rules eventually reclaim it. That's when sockets open. Okay. Run thread as a subprocess exit. Then subprocess exit will force close all open connections. OS reclaims everything, but if the thread exit while the subprocess is still alive, those connections stay open. So saves practice, physically close connection, third, forward exit, blah 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 blah. Okay, so actually, yeah, once the process ends through sys exit, then we're good. We don't have to worry about. So this actually, we don't even need that, because the only time this is gonna run is in the context of the game ending, right? There is no other context in which this would run, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, we just do with con lock, con close. Boom. We wouldn't even need to run that. It's extra. Okay, so actually that's pretty cool. We didn't have to add any code. That's actually very rare. It's a beautiful thing. The code was already there. Look at that. Okay, so now we can just go back up here and that's done. So let's see, right here, we have to add code in correct relation to kill thread and process after this. So that's already done. We don't have to. Well, this is gonna break. Oh, right. So then we need to check for. Yeah, don't we need to check for? We need to check for this. We have to check to see if both of them have been received. That's the whole point of having both of them. So in the context of each threaded client, it's going to break out of its while loop once the one client has returned the verified received match and bool true. And that is what we'd want it to do. But in the context of the larger sub-process, we want to wait until yeah, because this is its own thread. So wait, this is actually gonna okay, I see. We have to add it right here after the draw one. Yup. So right here we need to say if both of those clients have verified that they received the match end bool, then continue. So we would really have like a we'd have a while loop. We say while what is it, game? How do we refer to it? P1 game. How doth we refer to it? P1 game and P2 game. So we go over here and we'll say while P1 game dot verified received match end bool is equal to false, and P2 game dot verified received match end bool is equal to false. Well, no. It should be or. It should be or. So as long as as long as one of them, verified received match end bool, is still false, then we remain waiting for it to happen. And then once P1 verified received match end bool is equal to true, and P2 verified received match end bool is equal to true. So yeah, once both of them have set to true, then that will trigger the end of that. And we should probably add like a time limit, you know? Because like we just wouldn't want to wait infinitely. Like if they never hit enter and just like went AFK for like a day, you know, like you're just waiting. Obviously you'd want there to be like or a certain amount of time has passed. So we'll say like what, 30 seconds. We'll give them 30 seconds to review. We don't even need that long. Maybe 20 seconds, whatever. So we'll probably do time and s, and then check the time. So we'll do while P1 game verified received match end bool is equal to false, or so once both of them are true, neither one of these could be considered false, which means it would automatically break out of that while loop because they're both equal to true. Or in the case that time passed is equal to or is greater than or equal to, what do you say, 30? Just 30 seconds. So then we would say start time is equal to time.time and s, and then I'm guessing we don't have time imported to the main process, so we need to import time to main process for this, and then we'll say, and then while the time passed is going to be just going to be none for now, and then we're going to do time passed is equal to time and s, time and s minus start time. So this is going to be like 9:02, and this one's going to end up being like greater. It's going to be 9:03. You know, we're just talking in terms of minutes, but really it's going to go by seconds. And then once this keeps iterating, time passed will eventually equal start time plus 30 seconds. And then once that happens, time passed would be equal to 30 or greater. And then the while loop is going to check to see if time passed is greater than or equal to 30. So actually we would want to check for less than, because we want it to continue in this while loop until 30 seconds have passed. And if time passed is less than or equal to 30, we want to continue to enter into this while loop. But once the... Well, that's not going to work, because... This had to be and. Is have then it gets complicated. We should probably just add a different line. Yeah, we'll just do it like this, because that just becomes confusing. So we'll just do it like this. So while both of these are false, or well, at least one of them are false, and we'll say while at least one of these are false, we're going to get the time passed and is equal to time ns, which we don't have to just find up there. We can just do like this: time passed equal to time start time, and then we'll say if time passed is greater than or equal to 30 seconds, and that's so much easier to understand. We'll then break out of the while loop. So if it's if 30 seconds have passed and greater than 30, that's not going to be, that'd be 30 seconds, right? Yeah, I think so. So we're going to have to ensure this is the proper format for 30 seconds. So we're going to say ensure proper format for 30 seconds and not nanoseconds, because NS be in nanoseconds, dog. So time passes greater than or equal to 30, we break. And otherwise, we pass. Yeah, so let's review. So we get the begins the game, then we have after the draw log, then we get start time, which is time ns. Okay, that's correct. Then we do while P1 game verified received match bool is equal to false, or P2 game verified received match in bool is equal to false. While at least one of these are false, true. Time pass is equal to time and s minus the start time. So yeah, later greater time ns minus the earlier start time. So it's going to be like this is going to be 1 second, then this will be second 2, then it'll be second 3, and so it's going to be 3 minus 1 is 2, then it's going to be 4 minus 1 is 3, 5 minus 1 is 4. It's going to keep going until this gets to be 30. Once time passes greater than or equal to 30, that means 30 seconds has passed. We're going to break out of the while loop, which will then bring us down here to sys exit, and that will cause us to breaking out of while loop to run sys dot exit below to end sub process. Proper logic. Cool. All right. And so if time passes greater than or equal to 30, blah blah blah. Let me do pass here, and then accept. Well, I don't know about that exception. That's completely different. Yeah. So let's add a little div here. A little divvy. You know what I'm saying? A little dibbity div right there. A little dibbity div right there, dude. And then we're done. Okay. So I'm gonna take a break. That's that code, dude. That's that code, dude. So yeah, we still gotta finish. We still gotta finish associated code. There's still like we still gotta make some changes, right? So let's just put right here that we stopped, and we need to import time and all that. We'll do that. So we're just gonna say we stop right here. That being on the 27th, we stopped at this time. Are you supposed to put the time? I don't even care. It's not important. Anyway, and so we're gonna say next is import time to main process. Add. Yeah. Let me say next. Add or change. Verify received match and bool to C1 slash C2 verify and then we need to review all logic. Pretty sure there's other things that needed to be needed to be added. Shit. Slash modify. Shit. Alright, that's it. And that's where we stopped. 379 server. 379 server says go over here. Ready specifically. We stopped at 379 in server. Go over here. Stop at line number 300. Oop. Number 379. And I cannot type in server.py. Boom. Boom. So specifically, we began and almost finished adding all logic associated with match ending slash thread and sub process termination for both the server side and client side. Involved match and bool and verified received match and bool, etc. Yeah. Okay. And then we went to 232, which is going to be 234 because it's going to take us another minute. So we did an hour and a half. So let's review our devlog. We got game testing debugging review part 32. Can you believe it? 8:27, 1 to 2:34, 1.5 hour. That's correct. Continue debugging and reviewing the game. Tested specifically began and almost finished, adding all logic associated with the match ending, thread, and sub-process termination for both the server side and client side. Involved match and bool and verified received match and bool, etc. Stopped at line 379 in server, staged and blah blah blah. Alright, make sure we're at the root of the project directory, which we are. We're going to get branch, make sure we're on the right branch, which we are. We're going to get add. We're going to get commit -m double quote paste in, boom. We're going to do 5 files change, 1 of 5 insertions, 45 deletions. So for the first day and like multiple days, we actually had a net gain in our amount of lines, which is always disappointing because that means more code I gotta review and scroll through. So, alright, but you know, it had to be added. It had to be. There was no way around that, and that's why we got rid of all the other code over the past like week or two, is because I wanted to make sure that we were able to have a nice clean file to work with, and well, it paid off, I think. So now we're in the backup. We're gonna paste in the new one. This is a local backup. We're gonna enter in, we're gonna go to text devlog all the way to the end, and we're gonna look here and just verify that we did indeed do everything correctly, which we did. We can rename this backup folder to today's date, so I know that's the last time we backed it up. And that's gonna be it. I'm gonna go eat. Or eat a little snacky snack. Or eat a little food. And I'm probably gonna go to the gym. It's time for the gym. And yeah, that's it. Come back code again, probably. So very good session, very productive. Happy with the progress, and yeah, I'll see you next time.